now let's go ahead and look at solving absolute value equations. So to solve absolute value equations, we're going to be following 3 basic steps, kind of similar to what we do when we're just solving normal equations. First, we're going to isolate the absolute value expression. Next, we're going to write the equation twice with positive and negative answers. And then we're going to solve both equations. And so the reason why we have step number 2 is from our second property right here. The fact that the absolute value of a negative a is equal to the absolute value of a positive a. So that means we can end up having 2 different answers. One that makes what's inside of the absolute value positive, and one that makes what's inside the absolute value negative. And again, just a disclaimer, if the answer is negative, then there is no solution. So if on the right-hand side it's negative, then we know automatically that there is no solution. So let's go through some examples. So at first I have the absolute value of x minus 7 is equal to 5. I know my first step is to isolate the absolute value expression. I see this is already isolated, it's by itself on the left-hand side. So my second step is to write the equation twice with positive and negative answers. And so I'm going to rewrite this with x minus 7 is equal to positive 5, or x minus 7 is equal to negative 5. So I drop the absolute value and I write 2 equations. And now I just need to solve. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. And I get x equals 12. I'm going to add 7 to both sides here. I get x equals 2. And so that means that my 2 answers are x equals 2 and 12. Okay, looking at number 2, I see I have the absolute value of 3x plus 1 is equal to negative 5. So here again, I have it equal to a negative number. And I know from my second property, or my first property up here, that the absolute value has to be greater than or equal to 0. And since this isn't, that means that this one is no solution. Okay, looking at number 3, I have the absolute value of 3x plus 9 minus 10 is equal to negative 4. So here my absolute value is not isolated, there's this minus 10. So I need to first get my absolute value by itself. So I'm going to add 10 to both sides. And so I have the absolute value of 3x plus 9 is equal to 6. Here I see that it's equal to a positive number, so I'm good to go. Now I can go ahead and move on to step 2, which is to split this into 2 equations. One with a positive 6 and the other with a negative 6. And I drop my absolute value bars. And now I just need to solve both of these equations. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. And I get 3x is equal to negative 3. Divide by 3. And so it's okay if our x ends up being negative. It's really when we are looking at what the absolute value of an expression is, it can't equal a negative number. And divide by 3, I get x equals negative 5. And so my 2 answers here are x equals negative 1 and negative 5. Okay, let's do one last one. So here I have negative 2 times absolute value of 5x minus 1 minus 3 is equal to negative 11. So again, I want to isolate my absolute value expression here. So I'm going to first add 3 to both sides. You want to kind of think of this as a normal equation. I want to start by dividing by 2. I would go ahead and add the 3 to both sides. So I have negative 2, 5x minus 1 is equal to negative 11 plus 3, which is negative 8. And now I need to get rid of that -2. This -2 is right next to the absolute value, so that means it's being multiplied by it. So to undo that multiplication, I'm just going to divide both sides by -2. And so now I have the absolute value of 5x minus 1 is equal to +4. So it looks like for a second there that we're going to have it equal to a negative number, but when we divide that -2, it ended up being a positive, so we're good to go. So now we can go ahead and split this. So I have 5x minus 1 is equal to +4, or 5x minus 1 is equal to -4. And then I just need to solve both of those. And so my two answers are x equals 1 and -3/5. So when solving these, you really want to compare it to if you were just solving a normal equation. But now, instead of just having an x there that we're isolating, we have an absolute value. So you can compare this process to if we were solving -2x minus 3 is equal to -11, where we first add the 3 and then we divide by the -2. You want to follow those same steps.